On our episode today, I have Shaan Arora, the co-founder at Alia here. I'm really excited to have him on. I think they're doing some really innovative and interesting things, and we're going to talk zero-party data. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool. I mean, let's give some people background. So, who
Yes.
are you? How'd you get to where you are now? And what are you doing?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm Sean. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Alia. So I started the company actually about 2 years ago now while I was in university. The idea was I was building a Shopify store for my mom's brand who actually used to sell Indian clothes in Boston where I'm from. And then she wanted to move online. And of course I was like, let me let me
Let me
help bring
help
the
you.
digital age here, right? So I was helping her as I brought her online. One of the first things I honestly looked at on the website was like, what is this pop-up thing? Like, what is this? So I kind of did a deep dive into like, what is that and why is it used by every single site, but why is no brand innovating on it? Why is no software really innovating on it in a way that I thought could be innovated on? And I was like, I think this could be done better. So I did it better for my mom's store. I thought it would be cool to see how it performed if we actually launch it to the public. Launched it to the public about 2 years ago. Now working with over 900 brands using our pop-ups. So yeah, kind of run the company over the past 2 years. Went from about 20 to 200 just in the past 13 months. But yeah, love pop-ups. All we do is pop-ups. All I care about in my life is opt-ins and pop-ups and zero-party data.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, you said the magic word. So let's talk zero-party data because I don't think most people really understand what zero-party data is. So can you give just a definition on zero-party data and how it's different from first-party data?
Yeah, zero party data is data that users are willingly telling you about themselves. So it's like a very simple example is who are you shopping for today? Myself or someone else. When they answer myself, that's an example of them giving you zero party data.
That's awesome. And how are brands kind of using that data? Like, what are they doing with it?
Yeah, for sure. I think in the lens of a pop-up, which obviously is the world I live in, it would be, within the pop-up, you can ask a question at the very beginning, even before they're opting in, to say like, what are you shopping for today? Right. And if let's say the brand is like Nike, it could be like sweatpants, sweatshirts, like equipment for the gym, and then they or none of the above, and they answer that question. And then the way that data would get utilized would be in email and SMS flows. Right. So
Right.
based off my answer, you could then segment me an email, segment me an SMS because I'm here for, let's say, workout equipment, which is probably relatively different interest than if I was here for sweatpants. You would send me a welcome flow and then all the retention emails and the retention SMS flows about workout equipment compared to a generic flow that you would send to everyone else.
It's almost interesting because it's like akin to when you would walk into a department store early on and someone would be like, "Hey, what are you here shopping for?" And then they would guide you to the sections that matter most to you, right? Like, and
100%.
I think that that's like an opportunity for a lot of retailers. It's, like you said, the flows online in your emails and SMS, but then there's also like site personalization and, offer personalization. On the media side, we love it because I tell people the single most valuable part of first party data, if you wanted to ask a question or zero party data, if you want to ask a question to brands and customers on what they're doing, ask them if they're buying a gift. Because if they tell you that they are a gifting audience, well, then that's huge because then you can do Mother's Day, Father's Day, holidays, So really understanding what people are there for is super valuable. So what kind of questions do you see people ask? What kind of zero party data are people, asking for?
I think a few examples that work really well, right? Brand called Array Gray, they asked like, what is your hair care concern, right? So I think this is something that works really well, where it's like understanding what do they care about. Another brand,
Yeah.
Nike Strength, asked the question, what are you shopping for today, right? Like whether they're building their home gym, apparel and hats, dumbbells and plates, it could be my facility, right? And like these are all like pretty different like customers, right? I think Hostage Tape is a brand that asks that question you mentioned in the beginning, where
Yeah.
it's who are you shopping for today, and the answer being myself or someone else,
Oh,
right?
that's
So
interesting.
I think there's a few kinds of questions. One would be like product questions, like what are you shopping for today, right? A second question would be like intent, right? Like why are
Mhm.
you like Array Gray says, what's your hair care concern? Essentially, like not really giving you a product recommendation off the bat or asking you about what product you care about, but more about why are you here? Like what's your concern? And then I think the third question would be, yeah, as you mentioned, like a simple, who are you shopping for today? Myself or someone else? Gifting is super important in a lot of brands. So yeah, I think those three are great questions, and we've seen high performance for all three of those.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's super cool. I love that the overlay is really customized and it's different, but the flow seems really simplistic. So, Shaan, I guess you are asking an additional question. You are asking for more information. The natural marketer says the more friction you
No.
create, the worse this performs. How does is that true? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, it's super interesting, right? And intuitive, like when I first started the company, I probably thought the same thing too. And then by running a bunch of A/B tests, right, and seeing all the data that we have, it's like, oh wow, okay, so people are actually more likely to go through email and SMS if you ask them a poll question in the beginning. The idea of micro commitment is definitely there, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, okay, I've already answered who am I shopping for today. I might as well answer email, and then you might as well answer SMS. Actually, like the man plunge, they do like the saunas and the tubs. They actually
Yeah.
ask the second question. So it's question like poll question, email, SMS question, and then you get the discount, right?
Oh,
So
that's interesting.
yeah, like by asking a question in the beginning, not only do you get to collect zero-party data, but you actually get higher opt-in rates. Um, because people are more likely to go through the whole flow, and they're more likely to start the flow compared to just being like, "What's your email for 10% off?" Um, Asking that question instead of showing the email field as the step number one shows higher opt-in rates. So I mean, and that is like super great data for like the world to know, because it means you should ask that question because you get better segmentation. You also get better segmentation in media and like email and SMS. Plus, you also just get higher opt-in rates. So like it's literally a
Right.
win-win for the marketers here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, you collect this zero party data, you've got this information on people. Um, Once you've got it, how have you seen it actually impact conversions? Like, how has it actually led to sales? Can you talk through like stories of that or examples of people that have done it well?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's two plays here. The first is looking at the data at a meta level, right?
Mhm.
So Ability, which is a Shopify president's brand, they ask a really good question in their pop-up, and they asked like, "What are you interested in today?" Data came back, and actually most of their customers were interested in matcha, compared to green tea, right? And like that was data they didn't really expect. So with that data, it then led them, and they actually were telling us this on a call. They were just like, "Oh yeah, like that data we actually use, by the way." It led them
Hmm.
to change their R&D and decide
Oh,
that to do
interesting.
more of one thing and less of one thing, right? So looking at data at a meta level, like what are people here for? What do they care about? In general is really helpful. And then the second would be at a micro level, right? So like customer
Mm.
by customer, right? And the way we see that, right, is like I think most people who have either done this or can rationally and objectively agree that like if I was to get a more personal email than a more generic email, I'm more likely to convert. So
Yeah,
just like by proxy of that, we've seen brands make more money through email flows when they do segment versus when they don't segment.
that's really interesting. Um, I love that you are like all in on pop-ups, and it's kind of really cool to think about that. Any advice or thinking around how someone should even just set up their pop-up? Like, what is a perfect, interstitial? Because look, the reality of it is pop-ups suck, right? Like as
Yeah.
a consumer, they are literally in the way of what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so, how do you make them not suck and be effective for the brand?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll go through three parts of it, right? The first being delay time, right? So I'll speak generally here. Delay time of 5 seconds works the best through, I mean, probably 200 million data points, 5 second delay works the best. Okay. So that's like the first step there. Second would be the graphics of it, right? Full
Yeah.
screen outperforms everything else. So having a full screen pop-up will outperform any other pop-up that you could have. Third is going to be the copy of it, right? The
Okay.
copy is pretty important because one variation of this that works well is you've got a mystery discount. So,
Hmm.
instead of saying like you've got 5%, you've got 10%, etc., you write you've got a mystery discount. The reason that works well, right, is because brands can then lower their margin by not needing to give the super sexy 30%, but they can give the 10%, right? But put it behind a mystery discount copy. Meanwhile, they can actually increase their opt-in rates and um, help with their margins by giving a lower discount and putting it behind you've got a mystery discount copy.
Well, I mean, the
Um,
mystery discount's really fascinating too, because you could personalize the discount then, right? Because there are
yeah,
different discounts you can give to people depending on their value to you as a customer.
100%. Yeah, 100%. That is a really good point, right? So like, if you're able to collect zero party data on them, maybe ask them another specific question in the email flow. You can segment them like, oh, they answered this question and they went through the mystery flow. Like let's send them 5% instead of 10%, or send them 20% instead of 10%, whatever it might be. So yeah, that's really interesting. And then sorry, the last thing I want to mention would be like the first screen of the pop-up. As I showed the examples, like asking that poll question in the beginning is better practice than having an email field, which is then better practice than having an email and SMS field in the same line, right? The
Yeah.
idea of micro commitment and actually separation of these things works better than putting it all at once for the user to kind of go through like email, SMS at the same time versus splitting that up into poll question, email, SMS, reward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love anything that can allow us to get zero party data is really valuable for us. So it's interesting because if you've listened to the podcast, I'm a big fan of post purchase survey also, right? And so it's, you complete your purchase and you get a bunch of questions. Some of those are like, how'd you hear about us? That's like the standard. But then it's
Yeah.
it's like why did you come to the store? Who did you consider? All of those kinds of questions, right? That's
Mm.
great, but that only covers your customer base. So the beauty of the interstitial at the beginning of the
Yeah.
product purchase is you get their intent before they've purchased, and that helps you better understand how to purchase, how to get more purchases. And so it is interesting though. Anyone that is using first party pop-ups and post purchase, make sure you're deduping like customer
Yes.
data and like if you really want to understand people that came to the site, answered
Yeah.
questions but didn't purchase, dedupe your customer list and see what everyone that didn't purchase, right? So when we do media segmentation, we want to exclude out those people where we got data for them but they didn't purchase, because ultimately that's not the segment we want. We want the segment we got data for them and then they purchased. And so it is it's really cool to get all this data. You just got to be really careful with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I know, we've been talking about pop-ups and innovation specifically. So what's next? I guess where do you go with the pop-up, and how do you innovate on a pop-up more than kind of you have already?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, uh, I'll try to be succinct here, right? Like the main trend here is going to be AI being put into every single piece of technology, which the future is just that. And I think everyone kind of sees that, right? I know it's like a buzzword, but like it really is just the future. I think in
Yeah.
in every way, especially with GPT-4, everyone's like seeing, wow, this really is like crazy.
Yeah.
And we've seen that, and we've been building AI for a while into the product. So number one would be that. Number two would be like better segmentation and offers, right? So like, how do you think about showing the right pop-up to the customers at the right time, right?
Right.
So like bringing in features of, oh, like because they came from this UTM, and because in general we see customers who come from this UTM on this website convert best at 15 seconds with this offer. We can actually show that directly to the customer instead of guessing and randomly throwing an offer out there. So just understanding that better. So that's like segmentation and offers. And then the former thing I talked about, which is like AI, would be, and it's actually already been built, was infinity testing. So 24/7 running AI generated A/B tests on the pop-up, right? There's a lot of components of a pop-up, just like a lot of components of an email, similar, and there's a lot of components of text, of like a text message, right? You can probably test most things in there. In a pop-up, you can test literally everything you see on the screen. So the idea is, let's have 24/7 tests running that are constantly optimizing when people are sleeping, when people are not paying attention, but we're always optimizing. The pop-up is
No,
always.
that's really cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'd love to also pull in additional signals in, right? Because we've got so many tools that are sitting on the site that are
Yes.
collecting data as well. So,
Uh,
yeah, there's so much opportunity in this. Like, uh, experience that people don't even always pay attention to.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I definitely agree with that point.
Cool. Well, listen, Shaan, I really appreciate you coming on today. This has been so much fun. If someone wants to find you online, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I give a lot of like tactical advice on pop-ups on LinkedIn. On Twitter, my handle is at I am Shaan Arora, and then our website is alialearn.com, ALIA learn LEARN.com.
Amazing. Thanks so much for coming on, Shaan.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.